A while ago, I showed you 8 bass upgrades that are, honestly, a waste of your money, and the response was overwhelming. The comments filled up with confessions. Drawers full of boutique pickups that changed nothing. $100 cables bought in a moment of weakness. But something else happened in those comments too. You kept naming upgrades I had left out. More parts, more mods, more expensive little promises, and you were right about every single one of them. The parts industry did not stop at 8 ways to take your money, not even close. So today, by popular demand, here are 8 more base upgrades that are a near total waste of your money, the ones that did not fit into the first video, and some of these are even sneakier than the originals. And just like last time, I am not leaving you empty-handed. After the 8 wallet drainers, I am going to give you 4 more upgrades that are genuinely worth every cent, and 3 of the 4 cost less than a takeaway pizza. One of them is completely free. Stay with me all the way to number 12, because it is completely free. It will improve your playing more than any part ever made, and almost nobody actually does it. And number 5 is going to be controversial, because it sounds like I am contradicting the most important advice from the first video. I promise you I am not, and the difference is worth real money. Everything is linked in the description, so you can check every claim yourself. A quick honest note before we start. The links below are plain product links, no markup, no affiliate games, nothing being pushed on you. This is what I would tell a good friend holding a parts catalog and a credit card. If you have not seen the first video, the short version is this. Your tone lives in your hands, your strings, your setup and your amp, in that order, and almost everything else is decoration. Now let's get into the new list. Number 1, the pre-wired vintage wiring harness. This might be the purest markup in the entire bass world. Companies sell pre-wired control assemblies, 2 pots, a capacitor, a jack, and some cloth-covered wire for $90, $120, even $150, wrapped in words like vintage spec and period correct. Here is what is actually in that kit. Maybe $15 of standard electronic components. The cloth wire looks lovely and does absolutely nothing different for your signal. The pots are the same values your bass already has. Electricity does not know what decade the insulation is imitating. If a pot in your bass gets scratchy or dies, replace that one pot for $8. Paying 10 times the parts cost for nostalgia-flavored wire is exactly the kind of purchase the first video was warning you about. Number 2. The brass nut. There is a stubborn old belief that replacing your plastic nut with a heavy brass one unlocks sustain and tone, and it refuses to die. So let's kill it properly. The nut only touches a vibrating string when you play an open string. The moment you fret a note anywhere on the neck, the nut is out of the signal path entirely and your fret is doing the job. So this expensive, hard-to-install upgrade affects a fraction of the notes you play, and even there, blind tests struggle to hear it. What a nut actually needs to be is well cut, with clean slots at the right height. A properly cut nut made of decent ordinary material beats a badly cut brass one every single day. If your nut is worn or the slots are wrong, have it replaced properly. Do not pay extra for the metal. Number 3, a replacement neck for a healthy bass. There is a booming market in aftermarket necks, $300, $400, $500, sold with the promise of transforming your instrument. And sometimes a neck swap makes sense if yours is genuinely damaged, warped beyond adjustment, or has frets worn down to nothing. But swapping a perfectly healthy neck because you fancy a different profile is one of the most expensive gambles in this hobby. The new neck needs to fit your pocket exactly. The tuner holes rarely line up. It usually needs a fret level and a full setup on arrival. And after all that money and work, you might simply not like how it feels. If you love everything about your bass except the neck profile, the honest answer is usually to play more basses until you find the one whose neck you love, not to perform expensive surgery on the one you have. Number 4, the 18-volt mod. This one lives deep in the active bass forums. The idea is that if your onboard preamp runs on one 9-volt battery, wiring in a second battery for 18 volts gives you more headroom and a cleaner, more open sound. And technically, yes, the headroom exists on paper. In practice, unless you play with extremely hot pickups and an aggressive attack into a clipping preamp, You were never touching the limits of 9 volts in the first place. What you definitely get is double the battery cost, double the battery deaths, and a modification that can void support on your electronics. If your active bass sounds like it is clipping, check your gain staging and lower your pickups a touch first. That fix is free, and unlike the second battery, you will actually hear it. Number 5. Ultra Boutique Strings. Now hold on, because I can already hear you typing. The first video said strings are the single best upgrade in all of bass. That is still completely true. But the parts industry heard that advice too, and its answer was the $130 boutique string set, exotic alloys, hand-wound in small batches, silk wrapped in heritage colors. Here is the honest truth about diminishing returns. The jump from dead old strings to a fresh $30 set from any major maker is enormous. It is night and day. It is most of the entire effect. The jump from that $30 set to a $130 boutique set is small, subjective, and in a mix, essentially inaudible. What transforms your tone is that the strings are fresh and the right type for your sound, rounds or flats, not that they cost 4 times as much. One golden rule: 2 fresh, cheap sets a year beat 1 boutique set kept on for 3 years, every single time. Number 6. A wireless system for your bedroom. Wireless rigs have become genuinely good and genuinely affordable-ish, and so bass players who play exclusively at home, sitting down 2 meters from their amp, are buying $200, $300, $400 wireless systems to replace a cable that has never once been a problem in their life. Now you own another thing that needs charging, another battery that dies mid-session, and a transmitter hanging off your strap, all to solve a freedom problem you did not have. If you gig, if you genuinely move around a stage, wireless is a legitimate professional tool, and I will defend it. If your entire performing career happens between your desk and your sofa, a well-made $20 cable remains one of the best deals in music. Number 7. The preamp pedal bought to fix your tone. Preamp and DI pedals are some of the most seductive boxes in bass right now. Beautiful, expensive, $300 and up, and reviewers make every one of them sound like the missing piece of your sound. Here is the pattern I keep seeing. A player is unhappy with their tone, and instead of asking why, they buy one of these pedals as a $300 Band-Aid. The dead strings are still dead. The bad setup is still bad. The amp EQ is still set like a smiley face from 2005. Nothing was actually fixed, and now the disappointing tone just costs $300 more. If you gig and need a consistent sound straight into the PA, a preamp DI is a genuinely professional purchase. But as a cure for a tone problem you have not diagnosed, it is the most expensive way possible to avoid changing your strings. Number 8. The full fret job on healthy frets. Somewhere along the way, precision fret leveling, including the famous computerized machine treatments, turned from a repair into a fashion. Players with basses that play perfectly well are booking $150 to $300 fret levels as preventative maintenance, chasing a perfection they cannot actually feel. Let's be clear about when fret work is real. If you have measurable buzz from uneven frets, dead spots caused by a high fret, or deep visible grooves from years of playing, leveling or refretting is exactly the right medicine. But frets without real wear do not need machining, and a fret level always removes metal your frets can never get back. If your frets just feel a little rough when you bend, the fix is a $10 polish, and that brings us very neatly to the part of this video where I show you what is actually worth your money. Because just like last time, the pattern behind all 8 of these is identical. Expensive parts sold as solutions to problems you either do not have or that a cheap, unglamorous fix would solve better. Before any purchase, run the 3 questions from the first video. Can I actually hear the problem right now? Is this solving a real fault or selling me a feeling? And have I done the cheap things first? Those 3 questions are still undefeated. And here are 4 more cheap things that pass every test. Number 9, a fret polish and fretboard conditioning. This is the $10 afternoon that makes your bass feel like it came back from an expensive service. Over months of playing, your frets oxidize and get microscopically rough, and your fretboard dries out. You feel it as friction, bends that grip, slides that stutter, a neck that feels tired, some masking tape to protect the wood, a few grades of micro mesh or fine steel wool on the frets, a light coat of fretboard oil on a dry board, and suddenly every bend is glass and every slide is butter. It is not tone, it is feel, and feel is what you actually experience for every minute you play. $10 of supplies, one relaxing afternoon, results you will notice in the first 10 seconds. Number 10, learning gain staging and amp EQ properly. This one is completely free, and it is embarrassing how well it works. A huge share of the tone unhappiness that sells all those pedals and parts comes from two things. An input gain set wrong, so your signal is either starving or clipping, and an EQ curve set by fashion instead of by ear. The classic scooped smiley face that sounds huge alone and vanishes completely in a band. Learn to set your gain so the amp gets a healthy, clean signal. Learn to cut frequencies instead of boosting them. Learn what your low mids do, because that is where a bass lives in a mix. One free evening of properly learning your amp's controls will do more for your sound in a band than any $300 pedal on the market. Number 11, a proper strap and 5 minutes of ergonomics. Nobody talks about straps because there is no mythology to sell, but a bass is a heavy instrument, and a thin, cheap strap digging into your shoulder changes how you play. You hunch. Your fretting wrist bends into a worse angle. Your hands tire faster, and your technique quietly falls apart over a 2-hour session. A wide padded strap, set at a height where your fretting wrist stays relaxed and straight, costs $30 or $40 and changes every single minute you ever spend standing with your instrument. It will not change your tone. It will change your playing, your comfort, and your back, which matters infinitely more. Number 12, and here it is, the completely free upgrade that beats every part in both of these videos. Record yourself and actually listen back. Your phone is enough. Record yourself playing along to a song, then sit down and listen like a stranger would. I warn you now, the first time is brutal. You will hear timing you did not know was loose, notes that ring too long, a tone that sounds nothing like it does in your head. And that is exactly the point. The recording is the only honest mirror in this entire hobby. It shows you precisely what to practice. It tells you whether your tone problem is your gear or your fingers. And it kills gear buying impulses better than any budget, because you finally know what actually needs fixing. Every serious player records themselves. Almost no bedroom player does. Cross that line and you will improve faster in 3 months than in the previous 3 years for exactly $0. So there is the second half of the map. 8 more expensive upgrades that quietly change almost nothing, and 4 more cheap ones that change everything. Add them to the first list, and the lesson refuses to budge. The parts industry sells you the idea that your sound is one purchase away, and it is never true. Your sound is your hands, your strings, your setup, your amp, and your honesty about your own playing. Spend there first. Everything else is decoration, and now you know exactly which decorations cost the most and do the least. Tell me in the comments which of these 8 you have been guilty of, and be honest, we have all paid the nostalgia tax somewhere. Is there a drawer in your house with a brass nut in it? A wireless system with a flat battery? And which cheap fix from this list surprised you the most? Drop it below, because the best advice in this hobby comes from players comparing scars, never from the companies selling the parts. Everything is linked in the description. Subscribe for honest, no-hype truth about bass gear, and I would be genuinely glad to have you along for the ride.